we haven't lost our imagination. We have become distracted by the multiplicity of possibilities that are out there. So before in the ancient world, you know, a Phoenician or an Egyptian would not be saying, "Oh, I wonder what they're doing in South America down there to see. Yes, maybe I can use that technique." They were looking at what they were doing in Egypt and what material and resources were there. They weren't distracted, right? Europe only started to make versions of classical architecture when architects started to travel to Rome to look at what they'd done and then come back and do the English version, the French version, the German version. The classicism of Europe grew from travel when travel became easier. So then the world started to become homogenized. You can argue that capitalism is now the new style that is homogenizing the world. Everybody goes to see the epicenters of capitalism: Chicago, New York, Dubai, Singapore, Tokyo, Shanghai. And then they come back and say, I've seen the new world. Let's build it here. At a very young age, I've been obsessed with the built environment for people, for human beings, and how we construct our built environments. And whenever I enter a new city or a new space, I'm always very, very interested in the way in which people interact and move and engage with their geography, what I call the geography. So for me, there's an inherent nature, which is the geography, which is the background that people start to forget when architecture gets involved because they think that the architecture is the front, but actually the geography is the first thing. And then how then they use architecture to mediate through that and how they live their lives, how they conduct their lives, how they see their public life and how that's played out, and how they retreat into their private life. There is intention in construction. There is a code built into how things are made, and it affects us psychologically and spiritually and emotionally, and it is meant to. A palace solicits awe. A prison solicits fear. A courtroom solicits the kind of fear and dread of judgment, right? A parliament solicits the collective will, right? This is the DNA code that we have been, since we started making cities, as we've understood in the history of time, we think it's 10,000 years, it could be before. I mean, I'm not so sure when historians say that we started making cities 10,000 years ago, it could be as much as 100,000 years ago. That these codes have been part of how we signify the built environment. And that is something that is in each one of us. We have absorbed them and we know them. So we can feel those things. We know when somebody's trying to suppress us, and we know when something's trying to elate us. That's the power of architecture. What was started in tropical modernism was a very unique frame that was about buildings responding to the climate that they're in. And if you follow that dictum, look at the energy crisis that we're in right now. So yes, petrol is cheap right now, or energy is cheap right now. It's not anymore. It used to be cheap. It's not anymore. It's getting very expensive. So when are we going to get to the point where we say, actually, maybe it's too expensive to have air conditioning, right? Because we just can't afford the electricity anymore. So then what? We're going to destroy all the buildings that were built just for air conditioning boxes to allow them to be ventilated spaces that actually can allow breeze. Or should we be building buildings that should be naturally ventilated, naturally comfortable, which can be enhanced, if we need be, by technologies? I obviously believe in the latter. I really think that a good responsive architecture, to keep the rigor and the language and something rooted to place, needs to always be predicated on this idea of building something that exists and can be sustainable without enhanced technologies. If you can make the architecture without those enhanced technologies, you've made a good building that will probably last 100, 200, 300 years and will probably be loved by the people who use it. So it will just keep going. The architecture that most people are now seeing on the big posters and campaigns everywhere is commercial architecture. It's business, really. It's not the DNA of a place, but it becomes very much the background noise, right? A lot of that is to do with sales and people just trying to attract your attention. So that is, unfortunately, gets driven mostly by style and what's new and what's sensational, and less about what is the geography, what is the people, what do people want. It's more to do with what is the latest trick and what is the latest marketing thing that I can go one up against the person that's there. For me, that's a bit sad, because for me, it contributes to spoiling a place, actually, in my mind. Even though people think they're building very beautiful things, they contribute to spoiling a place because they actually start to make a place the same as everywhere else. Because markets, capitalism has no nationality or identity. It's just pervasive. And it starts to make the world look the same if we just let that be the only governing thing. We are so under the influence and the forces of capitalism. And also, we're, for the first time in our global history, we're so interconnected with each other. We have so much information about each other that actually we can build cities that look like a bit of everything. And this is the first time in the world that this is happening. Because before the internet and before all these things, people kept kind of in their own aesthetic and in their own place. And once in a while, one person will bring something, but it was never strong and pervasive. Whereas now we're in a time where everybody's looking at what they think is successful somewhere else and trying to replicate it in their own place. The positive about that is that you learn new things. The negative is that you destroy the quality of what you have. I'm trying to project that the future is made with the past, not in spite of the past. That the future is made with the past. I hope this building is a testament that the future is made with the past, and that, for me, is a more sustainable model and a much more unique model than a future made without the past. I would insist on ancestral knowledge about what we're trying to achieve with the city. I would insist on a radical sustainability, that our energy use. So I would insist, one of the rules I would make if I was in power in any form in Ghana is that you have to be radically sustainable if you're going to make a building before you can start. What is the most low-cost energy building material you can use, not what is the thing that you fancy, right? That would be the first rule. And you cannot cut a tree without extreme justification. Just these two things alone would change the entire environment. From a very young age, I understood that there were different types of worlds and different types of atmospheres, different types of places that made people behave in different ways and gave people either confidence or made them feel very sort of despondent about their environment or their future. Seeing places where people had extreme poverty and seeing places where people had extreme wealth. And I could see that architecture had a powerful role in that. It was giving people the backbone. So I also saw a world where the architecture of the world was made for only one type of person, the able-bodied at that time. This was before disability laws, the 80s, etc. So also I saw a world that was unjust for me, and it affected me very directly that, some people could have access to things and others couldn't, and it was deliberate, and that felt unfair. So for me, architecture is not just about making money and transactional. It is very much about the ambition of the client is one, that they have ambition beyond just monetary terms, but they actually want to contribute to society. They want to elevate something. They want to improve something. That's a big, strong signal for me. Even if it's just a very simple commercial project, that you have to have some desire to do more. Because I think that there's a huge responsibility in building in the environment. Even if people say, this is my land, I do what I want. No, the building affects everybody. Even the way it looks affects everybody. So there's a responsibility beyond just doing what you want when it comes to architecture. Do you want to build, everything around St. Paul's Cathedral? Do you want to build glass towers around it so you can't see it anymore? Do you want to build around the Acropolis so that you can't see it anymore? Do you want to build around any kind of important shrine that symbolizes the heart of a nation? No. So you have to have rules to kind of guide those things. We haven't lost our imagination.